All right, let's move on to our second game. And let's go to the Cure Bowl, 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, Orlando, Florida. UTSA taking on Troy. Troy is a two-ish point favorite here. I cannot wait for this bowl game. When this matchup first came out, I said, wow, this is a great matchup. This is like, reminds me of when the March Madness bracket comes out and you say, wow, what a first round matchup, because this is one of the best, totals fit sitting at 55.5, by the way, one of the best group of five offenses in UTSA, led by Frank Harris, and a really good wide receiver room against one of the best group of five defenses in Troy, led by Carlton Martial, who has the all-time FBS record for career tackles. Also have an excellent secondary.
I sided with our All-American team.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've got him in our Action Network All-American team, kind of a reward for his entire career as most tackles in FBS history. He's a really fun player to watch. Troy has a really good secondary as well. I sided with the better defense here in Troy. Their offense also came on to end the year. I'm also still not a believer in this UTSA defense. They can be really exploited through the air, especially with the short passing attack, which is where Troy thrives. Troy can't really run the ball, but that's UTSA's strength. I think their run defense, I think Troy's going to come out here. A lot of short passes with Gunnar Watson, and they'll be able to move the ball. And I think Troy's defense will step up here. And look, UTSA is not fully healthy. They lost a pair of their tackles, their offensive tackles for the season. They lost their wide receiver, Corian Clark. They also lost their defensive tackle, Brandon Matterson, and starting safety, Rashad Wisdom, is a really good player for the season. We'll see if Brennan Brady, their starting running back, is healthy, in addition to tight end Gavin Sharp. They could get Traylon Smith, he used to be on Arkansas, running back from an injury, but they are much more beat up. And if you look at UTSA's schedule, one of the things that I noticed, and this applies to UAB as well, like there was no good defenses in Conference USA. I go across the board. The only good defense that Troy faced that UTSA faced all year was Texas. And they averaged 3 yards per rush and 6 yards per pass, and they lost by 3 touchdowns. But they didn't face it. This is a big step up in class for them. So I sided with Troy here. Metrics also suggest Troy's pretty unlucky on late downs on both sides of the ball, which tend to be a little less predictive than early downs. And they're the much healthier team. So, yeah, it's not the most flashiest offense in Troy, but I think their defense will be the difference. This is a Troy team that just the market, I don't think, is giving enough respect to. This is a team that, without a Hail Mary by App State in week 2, they run the table after losing to Ole Miss. UTSA also finished 11-2, ran the table in conference play, but this is a team that had a number of one-possession wins, a few in the final seconds. I think Troy gets it done. I'm rolling with Troy here. What do you got?
You're not going to go up against each other.
All right.
I mean, the game should be a pick.
Right? First battle of bowl season.
Yeah, first battle of bowl season. I'm going to go with Meet Me here, but the numbers should be a pick, and the total should be about 59. But when you throw in, Troy's defense, you can certainly make a case to where if they win this game, they're going to get a lot of stops. First ever meeting between these two teams. Easily the showcase is the UTSA offense against the Troy defense. And I think Frank Harris announcing that he'll be back for UTSA next season, that was, that was huge. For Roadrunner Nation to come up with all that donor money to keep him, that was impressive for them. And they ponied up the money last year for Jeff Traylor. And now he loses his offensive coordinator, Will Stein. He's moved on to Oregon. Jeff Traylor promoted from within. Justin Burke has been an analyst for a couple of years. Special teams, I think this year he gets moved on up to offensive coordinator. Not sure Barry Lundy Jr. is still hanging around there, my old high school quarterback I used to play against. But he's still in there. But, Traylor is offensive minded. That's what he was. He was a running backs coach at Arkansas and SMU. He's likely going to call the plays, but he is 0-2 in bowls, and UTSA as a program is 0-3 in bowls. So both of these teams should be highly motivated here. I think, we can talk about Gunnar Watson. He's got his weapons and Ray J. Johnson and Kamani Vidal on the ground. But the handicap really, to me, comes on the other side. I'm not really worried about Troy putting it up on the UTSA defense. I think that is pretty much a wash. And when you break down the Troy defense, we said this before in the Sun Belt Championship, they are elite in defending the pass. Where they are not elite is defending the rush. And, Troy's the bottom half of FBS defensively in line yards and stuff rate. And if UTSA decides to run the ball and Frank Harris decides to get mobile, that's going to be a problem. And running back Kavorian Barnes, he's had a season high 28 carries, 170 yards against North Texas and in the CUSA championship game. And Frank Harris himself had 278 yards on designed runs with 6 explosives. I mean, that's on the season, but I mean, it's a potent ground attack. Everybody thinks of the air, but it's a potent ground attack. And the question is, can UTSA run on Troy? If you go and watch the tape, because these two teams are 21st and 22nd strength of record, so really easy when you do opponent adjustments here. But Troy allowed Ole Miss to go 5.8 per carry. App State went 4.6. Those were the two losses that Troy had. They needed 16 points in the fourth quarter to beat ULL. A little bit of fourth quarter magic there for them. And ULL averaged 4.6 per rush. And Ben Wooldridge, the quarterback, right? I mean, that's a guy that we bet on a couple times this year. He had 2 rushing TDs, and it was the only 2 TDs that ULL could get up. So that is obviously a weakness here for the Troy defense, and that's something that Frank Harris can completely expose. So I'm on UTSA. I'll be against each other. I would play it 1-2. I'd play it pick.
Yeah, that Frank Harris's legs are definitely a concern of mine. But this is a game where you can I can see logical. You just made a logical case for. You can make a logical case for either side on which you value more, because that's the Troy defense or the UTSA offense. Because literally, Troy run defense has some issues, but overall, this Troy defense is one of the best at the Group of 5 level, and the UTSA offense is one of the best at the Group of 5 level. So it should be one hell of a matchup.